Hello friends, today I am here with you with a very beautiful poem. It's actually one of my personal favorites, and this is the poem titled The Scholar-Gipsy, and it is written by the Victorian poet Matthew Arnold. So Matthew Arnold was born in 1822 and he died in 1888. He was one of the three great Victorian poets, the other two being Alfred Lord Tennyson and Robert Browning. Matthew Arnold was a classic in taste. He tried to imitate the serenity and the tranquility of the Greek classic masters, but oftentimes we see that he becomes very pessimistic in his attitude towards life. I guess we cannot really blame him because he lived in the Victorian period, which was an era of unprecedented changes. There was so much happening within a short span of time, and it was no wonder that people were confused. And as I have mentioned in many of my videos on Victorian poets earlier, this was a time when there was a clash between science and religion, and there was a boom in industrialization, and Charles Darwin had come up with his the idea of evolution. So much was going on, and it was very difficult for people to hold on to their sanity, and Matthew Arnold was very much affected by this. And we see that his pessimism, howsoever he tries to hide it, it keeps bubbling up towards the surface. He is so disillusioned with the modern life, with the thoughts of modern man. He is worried about people losing their religious faith. He is worried about materialism replacing spiritualism. So many things disturbed him. Now, this poem, The Scholar-Gipsy, is one of his most popular poems, and it was published in 1853. And one of the critics have mentioned that if Arnold's fame were to rest on any single poem, it would be this one. Okay, it is a masterpiece, such a beautiful poem, and it is. I have left Matthew Arnold and I'm delving right into the poem because it's a very long one. It has 25 stanzas of 10 lines each, and the rhyme scheme is a bit. And the rhyme scheme of the poem is a bit tricky. You have the rhyme scheme A B C B C A, and the sixth line is always shorter than the rest of the lines, and then you have the next 4 lines, the quatrain, rhyming D E E D. So the rhyme scheme is A B C B C A D E E D. And this particular poem, it has the title The Scholar-Gipsy. And who is the Scholar-Gipsy? Scholar-Gipsy is actually a character in a book written by Joseph Glanville, and this book was titled The Vanity of Dogmatizing, and it was written way back in 1661, almost 200 years before the time of Matthew Arnold. And in this book, the central character is the Scholar-Gipsy, and he was a scholar in the 17th century Oxford University, and it is believed that he left the university disillusioned with what was going on there, and he had decided to pursue the gypsies so that he would learn their tricks, because gypsies always have a very close bond with nature. They are believed to have magical powers, and so he wanted to learn the secret of the gypsies. He wanted to know how they had the capacity to read human minds. He felt this was more important or a more valuable information than all the information that Oxford University could give him. And so he left the university, and this was a scholar who lived in the 17th century Oxford. And it is this scholar who is called the Scholar Gypsy. And let me just tell you about how the poem is structured. Stanzas 1 to 3 tell us about the setting of the poem. Now this poem has a pastoral setting because the poet, the narrator, is he places himself in a very pastoral kind of a place. It is the uplands of the Oxford. From there, looking down, he can see the distant towers of Oxford, and it's a very scenic place. So it's a pastoral setting, and you have shepherds. He's talking to a shepherd, and he is waiting for a shepherd, his friend, to come. So in the first 3 stanzas, the poem tells us about the setting of the poem. Then in stanzas 4 to 6, we come across the legend of this Scholar Gypsy, Glanvill's legend. 4 to 6. 7 to 13, here the poet tells us about the Scholar Gypsy and the various places. He imagines that this man is still alive, and so he tells us of the various places, the local kind of places, the fields, and many such places where people have seen this Scholar Gypsy. And in stanza 14, the poet suddenly realizes that he is talking about a man who has been long dead, because a man who lived 200 years ago. And so that realization comes to him in stanza 14. 15 to 23, he compares and contrasts the life of the Scholar Gypsy with the life of modern men, including himself. And 24 and 25, he warns the Scholar Gypsy. It's a warning to the Scholar Gypsy to run away from modern man and to flee from any contact with the modern world. So that is how the poem ends. So now let's go on to stanza 1. And as I told you, 1, 2 and 3 deal with the setting of the poem. So in stanza 1, he is in the company of a shepherd, and then he says that the duties of the shepherd are calling him. He has a lot of things to do, and so he tells his friend, "Go, for they call you shepherd from the hill. Go, shepherd, and untie the wattled coats. No longer leave thy wistful flock unfed, nor let thy bawling fellows rack their throats, nor the cropped herbage shoot another head. But when the fields are still, and the tired men and dogs are all gone to rest, and only the white sheep are sometimes seen, cross and recross the strips of moon-blanched green, come shepherd and again begin the quest." So they are on a quest for something. They are searching for something. What are they searching for? They are searching for this Scholar Gypsy. And so he says, "I know you are very busy," to his shepherd friend, and he says, "So you go, you have a lot of things to do, finish off all your work, and then you go and feed your flock, and you go untie the wattled coats." That is, the sheep are all put in the pen, so untie the pen so that they can come out and graze, and then go and feed them, and go and satisfy your friends who are calling you. And after all that, after everything is over, when it is evening, when all have gone to rest and only the white sheep are sometimes seen. This is a very visual poem. You can almost see everything in your eye, That is how you should read this poem too. And so the moon-blanched green, what a beautiful expression, moon-blanched green. That is the green meadows that are bathed in the moonlight. Blanche is actually the French word for white, okay, moon-blanched. So the moon-bleached green fields or the meadows. And so you can see within their enclosed spaces, a couple of sheep might be walking here and there. That is all the movement that is there. And so when everything is quiet, when you finished all your job, please come over and let us continue the quest. In stanza 2, he says, "Here where the reaper was at work of late, in this high field's dark corner, where he leaves his coat, his basket and his earthen cruse, and in the sun all morning binds the sheaves, then here at noon comes back his stores to use. Here will I sit and wait, while to my ear from uplands far away, the bleating of the folded flocks is borne, with distant cries of reapers in the corn, and lift the murmur of a summer's day. So he says, while you go, I will sit here and wait for you. And he talks about the place where he is sitting. So he is now in a high field, and he's in a dark corner, in the sense a shady corner, and it is a kind of a very sheltered place. And that is where the farmer, when he works there during the daytime, leaves his basket and his coat and everything, and he works the whole morning, and in the noon he comes back to have his lunch there. That is what he means by his stores to use. And he says, I will sit here and wait for you, and you will find me here when you come back after all your duties are done. And as I sit here, I can hear from far away the bleating of folded flocks, and I can also hear the cries of reapers. Cries here is the loud voices, the songs of reapers who are reaping corn in distant fields, and all the live murmur of a summer's day. So he can listen to all the noises, the happy noises of the summer's day. And so he says, I'll wait here for you till you come back. And in stanza 3, he says, screened in this nook over the high half-reaped field, and here till sundown, shepherd, will I be. Through the thick corned scarlet poppies peep, and round green roots and yellowing stalks I see, pale pink convolvulus in tendrils creep. The air-swept lindens yield their scent, and rustle down their perfumed showers of bloom on the bent grass where I'm laid, and bower me from the August sun with shade, and the eye travels down to Oxford towers. So look at how he describes this place where he's sitting. It's such a beautiful place. He says it is screened in this nook over the high half-reaped field. So the harvest is still going on, and so now today the workers have left and they've gone, but the field is half-reaped. Another half yet remains to be reaped. And here in this shady and the shaded corner, I will be sitting. And then he says, and he says that he's surrounded by scarlet poppies, okay, bright red poppy flowers, and he can see the green roots and yellowing stalks. You remember, it is half reaped, so he can see the stalks, the cut stalks, which are yellowing, and the green roots. And so already we have red flowers, green roots, yellow stalks, and along with that he talks about pink flowers of the convolvulus plant, which is a creeper. And so you can see another color added, and then there is a flower called linden. Linden is a fragrant flower as far as we understand. Air-swept lindens yield their scent, and he is sitting down at a certain place, and these linden flowers, they shower their blooms of flowers on him, on the grass that he is sitting. And they protect me from the August sun. And sitting here, when I just let my eyes wander, I can see the distant Oxford towers. So he is on an elevated plane, and so from there what he can see is the towers, the top part of the towers of the Oxford University. So this is how he draws or sets the background for the poem, and he tells us about the setting. Now from stanza 4 onwards, he goes on to talk about Glanvill's legend of the Scholar Gypsy. So stanza 4, and near me on the grass lies Glanvill's book. Come, let me read the oft-read tale again. The story of the Oxford scholar poor, of pregnant parts and quick inventive brain, who, tired of knocking at preferment's door, one summer morn forsook his friends, and went to learn the gypsy lore, and roamed the world with that wild brotherhood, and came, as most men deem, to little good, but came to Oxford and his friends no more. So he says, as I sit here, I have a book by my side. And what is that book? It is Glanvill's book. And so he says, let me once again read this. It's an oft-read tale. Many people have read it. I myself must have read it more than once. Let me read it once again. And what does the story tell? It is about the Oxford scholar poor, of pregnant parts and quick. Pregnant parts means a very knowledgeable man, a clever man, okay, and a quick, inventive brain. He had a very intelligent brain too. He was a man of gifted faculties, who, tired of knocking at preferment's door, one summer morn forsook his friends. So one day, this man, he was intelligent, but unfortunately he was poor. So maybe we know that class divisions are there at all levels. So maybe in the university too, there was a preference for people coming from noble families, aristocratic families. Maybe the poor people were kind of sidelined. So tired of all that, tired of knocking on preferment's door, one fine morning the scholar decided to just leave the university and join the Wild Brotherhood. Wild Brotherhood here refers to the gypsies. And then most people said that he will come to little good, because what is the point in leaving Oxford? Who would do that? Leaving Oxford and going off with the gypsies? But then anyway, whether he fared well or did not fare well, he did not come back to Oxford or his friends anymore. And in stanza 5, he says that many years later, in the country lanes, two scholars whom at college erst he knew met him, and of his way of life inquired, whereat he answered that the gypsy crew, his mates, had arts to rule as they desire the workings of men's brains. They can bind them to what thoughts they will. And I, the secret of their art, when fully learned, will to the world impart, but it needs heaven-sent moments for the skill. So he met many years later, two of his classmates met the Scholar Gypsy on the way, and they asked him how his life was going on, and he said, I am with the gypsies now. And his mates, that is the gypsies, they knew how to rule other people's minds. They could control the workings of men's brains, and they can make them think what they want to. And so he says that I am trying to learn the secret of their art, and when I learn it, I am going to reveal that art to the whole world. But then it will take some time, because it needs heaven-sent moments for that skill. You will not learn the secret of the gypsies just because you are intelligent. You need a spark from heaven to learn the secret. And so he said that he is waiting for that. This said, stanza 6, this said, he left them and returned no more. But rumours hung about the countryside that the lost scholar long was seen to stray, seen by rare glimpses, pensive and tongue-tied, in hat of antique shape and cloak of grey, the same the gypsies wore. Shepherds had met him on the Hurst in spring, at some lone alehouse in the Berkshire moors. On the warm ingle bench, the smock-frocked boors had found him seated at their entering. Stanza 7, but mid their drink and clatter he would fly, and I myself seem half to know thy looks, and put the shepherd's wanderer on thy trace. And boys who in lone wheat fields scare the rooks, I ask if thou hast passed their quiet place, or in my boat I lie, moored to the cool bank in the summer heats. Mid wide grass, meadows which the sunshine falls, and watch the warm green muffled Cumnor hills, and wonder if thou hauntest their shy retreats. So now he goes on to tell us about he continues this legend, and he says that this man, he was met by these two friends, and then he went away from them and they went their own way, and he did not come back anymore. But there are so many rumors in the countryside that many people say, they report that they have seen a man walking about in the costume of gypsies. He is a very pensive and tongue-tied man. Pensive, thoughtful, he's always lost in thought. Tongue-tied means very quiet, doesn't talk much. And he wears a hat with a strange shape, and also a grey cloak like the gypsies. And the shepherds say that they have met him in a place called Hurst when they were working there. The shepherds say that they have seen a man like this, and in ale houses where people go in for, where the Berkshire moors are the places. Berkshire is the land, and it's the place where this happens. And then the smock-frocked boors. Here it refers to the uncouth farmers. After a long day's work, when they go to the ale houses, they report that they have seen the man like this. And he was sitting there when they were entering, and after some time he would just disappear. Means he would just get up, and he doesn't like a lot of company and noise, and so after some time when they look for him, he wouldn't be there. And then the poet or the narrator, he tells us that I myself feel that I have seen you, that I know you. And then he says, I have put the shepherd's wanderer on your trace. Means I have given the duty of finding you to many, many shepherds and boys who works in the fields. And boys who in lone wheat fields scare the rooks. I ask if thou hast passed in the quiet place. So I am always looking for you. He really wants to meet this man. And so he says, I am looking for you. I keep asking other people whether they have seen you. And he says, sometimes when I lie in the boat, moored to the cool bank. So he's not sailing, the boat is tied or moored to the bank. And sometimes in the summer heat, he just goes there and lies in his boat, and he watches the Kamna, the green muffled Kamna hills, because the hills are quite far away. And as he lies there, he wonders if you are somewhere inside their shy retreats. Shy retreats here, retreat, he means some quiet, sheltered place deep within the Kamna hills. So he wonders whether this Scholar Gypsy might be found somewhere inside there. And you can see here in this phrase, shy retreats, an example of a poetic device called transferred epithet. So here, the retreat or this quiet place, that place is not shy. Then who is shy? It is actually this man who is hiding from the others who is shy. So the shyness of this man, the Scholar Gypsy, is transferred to this shaded places or retreats. That is why this can be considered as an example of a transferred epithet. Then in stanza 8, he says, so from here on, that is from stanza 7 on, he starts telling us about the various places where this man has been spotted or seen. Foremost I know thou lovest retired ground, thee at the ferry Oxford riders blithe, returning home on summer nights have met. Crossing the stripling Thames, Thames, Thames is actually pronounced as Thames. Okay, it's easy to mistake and pronounce it wrongly. So remember that it is pronounced as Thames. So he says that Oxford riders, students from the Oxford maybe, when they go back home on summer nights, they say that they have seen you crossing the Thames at Bablock Height. Now Bablock Height is a place where the river was very narrow and people could just cross over very easily. And so people say that they have seen him there, and they have seen this man playing in the water. I mean, just allowing his hands, fingers to just kind of trail in the water, trailing in the cool stream, thy fingers wet, as the pun's rope chops round, and leaning backward in a pensive dream, and fostering in their lap a heap of flowers plucked in shy fields and distant bikewood bowers, and then eyes resting on the moonlit stream. So they have seen this man lying in a small boat or a punt, and he's lying backward as though he's in a dream, and he's got a lot of flowers plucked from some distant fields on his lap, and his eyes are resting on the moonlit stream. So in a dreamy kind of a trance-like mood, this man has been seen. And in stanza 9 he says, and then they land and thou art seen no more. So by the time these people reach, they land and they get down from the boat, they turn and then you are not to be seen, you disappear. And then maidens who from the distant hamlets come to dance around the five-field elm in May, oft through the darkening fields have seen thee roam, or cross a stile into the public way. So he says that maidens, some young ladies have also said that they have seen you, and they come to the five-field elm. So in May, the farmers, they have all kind of celebrations because it is the summer season, the harvest is done, and so and the women, they dance around a maypole or around a tree. Okay, so that is called Maypole Dancing. And so when these women from distant hamlets is a very small village, a very remote village, from such places, when they come to dance around the five-field elm, they say that they have seen this man walking and crossing a stile into a public way. A stile is a kind of a wooden barrier. When there is a fence, if it's the whole thing is blocked, and in between there would be a break, a low kind of a fence where you can just walk over it. Okay, so that is a stile. And so they have seen this man crossing the stile and getting onto the road. And they have also sometimes it has so happened that he always collects flowers, and so he has given them the flowers that he had. So a lot of flowers, and now he gives us a list of flowers that the Scholar Gypsy had given to these women: frail-leafed white anemone, bluebells, orchises, so all kinds of flowers, an assorted bunch of flowers he has given to them. And none hath her words she can report of thee. So the women have seen him, but nobody can really give us more information about you. You again disappear from there. And then in stanza 10, he says, above Godstaff Bridge, when hay time's there, in June, many a sight in sunshine flames, men who through those fields of breezy grass, where black-winged swallows haunt the glittering Thames, to bathe in the abandoned leisure pass, have often passed thee. So sometimes on hot afternoons, when the farmers, after they finish their harvest, when the sunshine is flaming the scythe. Scythe is the curved kind of knife that they have to cut the grass or cut the crops. So it is so hot that the scythe is glittering in the sunlight. And at such times, when the men take a break from their hard and sweaty job and they go to take a cool bath in the lasher. Lasher is a pond, a small pond which is abandoned. These men say that they have seen you standing above Godstaff Bridge, and they have often passed him sitting in the river bank overgrown, and they have all marked thine outlandish garb, because he dresses very differently from all the others, because he, you remember, lived 200 years ago, and so they have looked at him and they have noticed his outlandish, means strange dress. Thy figure spare means very thin, thy dark vague eyes, soft abstracted air. You always sit with a very dreamy look, and then when they come back from bathing, you are gone. Now stanza 11. At some lone homestead in the Cumnor Hills, where at her open door the housewife dance, thou hast been seen, or hanging on a gate, to watch the threshers in the mossy barns, children who early range. So then again, housewives have seen you, sometimes in some homestead, means in a home, in a farm, in the Cumnor Hills. In the afternoon, the housewife sits at the door. And at the threshold of the house, she sits there. Maybe she's stitching something, she's darning something, and when she looks up from her work, she has oftentimes seen a man hanging on a gate and watching the threshers working in the barns. So housewives too have seen him. Children who early range the slopes and late for cresses from the rills have known thee eyeing all an April day, the springing pasture and the feeding kine. So he says that children too, a lot of children who roam for cresses. Water cresses are a kind of water plant which the children love to collect, and so the children who keep roaming up and down to collect flowers and cresses, they have seen you and in April, and they have seen you standing there and eyeing the springing pasture and the feeding kine. Kine here is the cows. Okay, kine, cows. So they have seen you standing there and watching the cows in the field, and marked thee when the stars come out and shine through the long dewy grass moves slow away. So in the evening, by the time the moon comes out, these children have seen you going away from there quietly. Stanza 12. In autumn on the skirts of Bagley Wood, where most the gypsies by the turf-edged way pitch their smoked tents, and every bush you see with scarlet patches tagged and shreds of grey, above the forest ground called Thessaly, the blackbird picking food, sees thee, nor stops his meal, nor fears at all. So often has he known thee pass him stray, wrapped, twirling in thy hand a withered spray, and waiting for the spark from heaven to fall. So now another place where he has been seen, Bagley Woods. Bagley Woods, and Bagley Woods is the place where gypsies often pitch their tents, because now gypsies are a wandering group of people, and generally when they come to a place, they are kept away from the village, because in most places the villagers have a lot of superstitions about gypsies. They are considered to be thieves, and they are considered to have magical powers, so they are afraid that being close to gypsies is dangerous, and so gypsies are not allowed to camp anywhere in the village, but they are sent off to the clearings in the forests. And that's why he says that in the place where the gypsies are usually found, you have been seen, and there this place is called Thessaly. And he says that as this gypsy walks by, there is a blackbird who is picking food, and when he sees this scholar gypsy, the bird doesn't bother at all, doesn't stop his meal. So you can understand what that says about this man. Generally what happens when a human being goes close to any other creature, like for example a bird or an animal, if it is a wild animal, immediately it goes away from you, because such creatures don't trust human beings. They consider human beings dangerous. But in this case, the bird is the least bothered, because the bird is sure that this man will definitely not hurt the bird. And so the bird has seen you straying around, and he is rapt in the sense he is lost in thought, and he has a withered spray. He's got a stick and he's twirling that, and he's walking, and he is not least bothered about this bird, or he doesn't try to shoo it away or anything. And he is waiting for something. And what is he waiting for? For the spark from heaven to fall. And then stanza 13, he says, and once in winter on the causeway chill, where home through flooded fields foot travellers go, have I not passed thee on the wooden bridge, wrapped in thy cloak and battling with the snow? Thy face toward Hinsky and its wintry ridge, so and thou hast climbed the hill and gained the white brow of the Cumnor range, turned once to watch while thick the snow flakes fall, the line of festal light in Christ Church Hall, then sought thy straw in some sequestered grange. And now in stanza 13, this narrator is so lost in this story of this man, the scholar gypsy, that he begins to feel that he himself has seen the scholar gypsy. And that's why he asks, and once in winter, didn't I meet you? Have I not passed thee on the wooden bridge? And he was walking towards, with his face turned towards Hinsky. Okay, he was walking towards Hinsky, and then you climbed the hill and you went up towards the Cumnor range, and you turned once to watch the snowflakes fall like a line of festal light in Christ Church Hall. Now Christ Church Hall is a place in the Oxford University, and so he says that there's festal light because it is winter, it is, I guess, almost the Christmas season, and you have festal light, decorative lights all over there. And as he climbs up, he just turns to look at this illuminated Christ Church Hall, and then he just goes back. So for a moment, maybe he thinks of his past, the years that he spent in this university, but now he turns and he walks upward to some then sought thy straw in some sequestered grange. So to seek thy straw means to find his place of rest, so that he can sleep for the night in some sequestered means quiet and isolated grange. Grange again is a farm. Okay, so he goes up seeking shelter in some place. And then in stanza 14, suddenly the man wakes up, means he must have been lost in his dreams, and he says, now didn't I meet you? And then suddenly he realizes, what? I dream. 200 years are flown since first thy story ran through Oxford halls, and the grave Glanville did the tale inscribe, that thou wert wandered from the studious walls to learn strange arts. So he says 200 years have passed since Glanville wrote your story about how you wandered away from the studious walls. Studious walls refer to the Oxford. And where did he go? He went to learn strange arts, and he joined a gypsy tribe. And thou from earth art gone long since. So you have gone away from earth long since, and you must be buried in some quiet churchyard, some country nook where over thy unknown grave tall grasses and white flowering nettles wave under a dark red fruited yew tree's shade. So he says, and you surely must be buried in some unknown grave, because nobody knows this Scholar Gypsy. And your grave, because it is unmarked, unknown, it must be now covered with tall grass and white flowering nettles under a dark red fruited yew tree. Now yew tree is a tree that is associated always with graveyards and death. You find a reference to the yew tree in more than one poems. You have it in Wordsworth. He too talks about the yew tree. So it is a tree that always signifies, as I said, death and a sad kind of a event. So that, I guess I'll stop there, because we have already covered 14 stanzas, and we'll do the rest of the poem in the next video.